Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. Life is miserable, it's crap, but this week it's actually not too bad. People are getting their comeuppance, it would seem. And no, I'm not talking about Stu. Because once again, I'm Bradley, joined by Stu. Boris Johnson's resigned. How you doing, Stu?
Hey, has he actually resigned?
I believe he's actually handed in his resignation as of us recording.
Oh, nice.
As of us recording, still up in the air as to whether he carries on for a short while, but he is done.
Nice. Yeah, no, I've been in meetings pretty much all day, so I've not looked at the news. So that is nice to come on the podcast too. I have to say,
I'm not going to shed any tears.
Maybe of joy.
Yeah, not for that clown.
Yeah.
You say of joy because at the moment we've still got a Tory government and stuff like that, so it's not going to improve dramatically. But hey, it's kind of like the situation in America. Biden isn't exactly the best person for president, but he's better than what we had and a chance to reset.
Yeah, you just got to take your wins where you can.
I mean, the only way it'd be worse is if Jacob Rees-Mogg somehow gets it.
Was it Haunted Pencil? I think I've heard him described as.
I've got a few choice names, but I don't want to give you too much editing to do.
No, fair play.
You can insert a whole bunch of bleeps here if you want. Your choice.
Actually, yeah. That would actually be really good. And a few choice words for the entirety of the cabinet. But it's really good when they start eating their own. I'm always impressed by how cannibalistic the Tories can get sometimes. So, yeah, it's worked in our favour a little bit. That's nice.
We can look forward to the future a little bit more. But do you know what else can look forward to the future with stuff and look forward to the future in?
No. What?
Video games.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically, upcoming video games. See, there was some logic to that segue.
Beautiful.
I think it was really good of good old Boris Johnson to hand in his resignation just so I had a segue for our preview look at what's coming up show.
Well, I almost feel like you engineered that with him, you know? Just for the...
Yeah, I've put the country through hell just to get to this moment.
Worth it. The payoff was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it, totally. Sorry we've got no food or fuel or anything, and the cost of living's going up, but I got a good segue in.
Got to focus on the important stuff.
So, rather than what have you been playing, Stu, what are you looking forward to playing?
Yeah, so there's a few good things on the horizon, and I think we're at a funny time because of COVID over the last couple of years delaying a lot of titles, and also I think because of we seem to be cresting the Soulsborne wave and it's kind of falling off the other side a little bit now, maybe a tiny little bit, and there's quite a few on the horizon I'm looking forward to. I'll start with the ones I'm not madly looking forward to, but kind of like, oh yeah, okay. So I'll mention Street Fighter 6. So yeah, it's a fairly biggie. It's been a long time since Street Fighter 5, although it doesn't feel like long because it was
it doesn't.
Yeah, because it was so naff in single player, which is actually pretty important to me. I didn't really bother with it, but even then, it doesn't. I think because Street Fighter 4 carried on for so long, 5 just feels like a weird blip that never really happened, and I'm hoping that they've learnt some lessons from that, and 6 is really good. My big concern, I'm not mostly concerned, I'm mostly just looking forward to it, but my biggest concern is that they're going as far away from the style of Guilty Gear as you can to try and make it more like Tekken, where each move you can see it flow completely in 60 frames. I think one of the things that anime does really well in the cartoon style is that part of the animation is blurred or drawn in a way that looks blurred, so that hits have more impact, so they don't correlate to what happens in real life. It's like superheroes basically, too fast to see, and they look like they might be going as far away from that and more towards Tekken, which is you see every move. It's not supposed to be unrealistic. And I don't really want that. I want that in Tekken. I don't really want it in Street Fighter. But we'll see. It looks pretty enough. The character designs are okay. They're still going for this very chunky look, but I don't know. I'm going into it way too much for a preview, but it's Street Fighter. It's still a big deal.
It is, yeah. I'd say I'm probably not going to bother playing it myself, but it is a big deal. It's like when the next big blockbuster film comes out, you might not care for it yourself, but, you know, it's a big deal, and I think that's how I feel about Street Fighter.
Yeah, you want to see what it does, even if you're not going to get it. It's of interest. Yeah,
definitely. I'm just going to mention before I go to my first one, a few that I am looking forward to that I'm not going to go into detail on because I'm involved with them in some way, shape or form. But I have to say, really, really looking forward to Snufkin, A Melody of Moomin Valley. I am really looking forward to The Garden Path, and I am also really looking forward to playing Train Racers, because it's a game that lets you race a train down a mountain in the post-apocalypse.
Nice.
But 3 I'm really looking forward to, that is. But I am involved with them in some way, shape or form, so I'm not going to say anything about them because that's conflict of interest. But my first one I really want to talk about is The Wandering Village, is one I am super looking forward to. For anyone who doesn't know, The Wandering Village is essentially a city builder on the back of a giant creature, a big wandering animal, not a dinosaur. I thought it was a dinosaur when I very first saw it, but it's not. Basically, yeah, it's a god game stroke sandbox building thing, roguelike as well. I'm not sure how the roguelike elements are gonna work on this, but yeah, this giant thing wanders around, you build a settlement on the back of it, and away you go. It's just a nice difference to what's the usual city builder stuff. I don't know if the mechanics will be the same or whatever, but it's just adding something that's just, I've never seen that before. I quite like that idea, and it looks lovely. But yeah, it's coming out later this year, hopefully, if it meets its targets, and it just looks wonderful to play. The visuals look great. Like you kind of got this, not realistic, but this more like photorealistic creature wandering around. But then when you go into the actual settlement building stuff, it's a bit more stylized and almost like hand drawn. It's got 2 really good different visual styles that work well together. But yeah, really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that does sound really nice. And you know, as usual, the indie stuff is the one where you're kind of, it's bizarre. It's the stuff where you're really blown away by how things look and the style they're using. And AAA's, you're just like, yeah, it's fine. Just looks the same as everything else, mostly. Yeah. Yeah, no, and on that subject, there's one coming out in just about a week's time called Endling, which is about you play as like a mother fox who has to protect her cubs after some sort of apocalyptic event has happened, and that looks really beautiful. You know, that's kind of a cartoonish, cel-shaded kind of style, but looks, you know, subdued but beautiful kind of thing. And yeah, looking forward to that one quite a lot.
Yeah, I've got that one on my wish list as well, and that's very close to being a day one for me, the more I see of it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Really lovely.
And what's next from yourself?
So, there are quite a few. In terms of, like, really... Not, like... They're really biggies, but I'm not that fussed. Bit like Street Fighter. Final Fantasy XVI. It's still kind of... There's not been massive amounts of it shown, but it graphically doesn't look massively impressive. Looks alright. But it doesn't look emo like 15, which was really off-putting for me. And it looks like it could have some nice gameplay elements. I mean, it's they've moved fully into this action RPG style now, which, you know, I think turn-based just suits Final Fantasy better. But, you know, I'm an old relic, so it doesn't really apply. But yeah, I would like to check that out. And kind of alongside that, in a weird kind of a way, is that Forspoken. Terrible name for a game, which is which is kind of like it kind of looks like that Prince of Persia remake that was also in cell shaded, but it's not cell shaded. If just to confuse people plenty, it looks basically like a magical parkoury kind of adventure. The graphics are a little bit blandish for me, but it still looks like it could be like a solid traversal / combat game. Hopefully got a few nuances in it that make it a bit different. So that and Final Fantasy very much, they're kind of like, they're not a day one for me, but they're if there's a secret ingredient in there, if there's a special sauce, if there's a little bit of a bit of spice in there that's a bit unusual, then I will. And people go, wasn't expecting that tang. Then I might well get them sooner rather than later when they drop.
Visually, Forspoken, it looks to me like Kratos in the new God of War has gone, look, I'm only going to concentrate on my boy. I don't care about my daughter. She can go off and do her own thing. And that's what she's gone and done. She's gone off and done her own thing in Forspoken. That's just what the visuals remind me of.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's just really weird. I'm sure it's like nothing like it, but it just looks like it's like someone's tried to make God of War, but with a female lead. And I'm all for that, absolutely all for that. But it looks so much like God of War. I had to double check that it wasn't some kind of spin-off.
yeah. I guess how long now since the first God of War? 5 years?
The remake, 2018, I think it came out.
Yeah. So that sounds about right. About 4 years. So they probably, the minute they saw it, they were like, right, we're copying that. 4 years down the line, bit of a delay because of COVID. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, it's especially one of the scenes where it's the main character stood there in front of a big giant beast, and obviously she's about to battle it. It was like, no, that's the God of War playbook right there. It might be better than God of War. Who knows? That'd be funny.
Interesting. Yeah.
But next up for me is Endless Dungeon. I've spoke about Dungeon of the Endless before, which is not Endless Space or one of the other Endless games. There's many Endless games. There's an endless amount of Endless games. Yeah. They're all standalone, I think. I don't know. But Dungeon of the Endless was a roguelike dungeon crawling tower defense, base defense type game. It was really good. I really liked it. And this is kind of a sequel, but not at the same time to that. But it's taken on a much different look and a much different way of playing. I've just managed to get the open dev beta of this, so I'm going to give it a go. But I really like how this looks. It kind of looks like it takes more from Diablo than it does the original Dungeon of the Endless. But I'm all for more of this. The first one's brilliant. It's by Amplitude. It's going to be decent in some way, shape or form. But yeah, it's kind of... I like studios, and I've mentioned this before, that will take a series or take a brand and do so many different things with it. Rather than just going, here's the same game again, just with a slightly different change up in this particular mechanic. Just have fun with your series.
Yeah. I like no, go on.
Endless do that. Amplitude do that. And I'm really looking forward to it.
I just really like the fact they've gone, right, we've got a game called Dungeon of the Endless. So what we'll do is we'll make a game called Endless Dungeon, and then if people go, well, what was that game I was thinking of? Oh, it was Endless Dungeon. And they were thinking of Dungeon of the Endless, their Amplitude is still getting the money. And like more companies should do that. So they should have like War of God. Santa Monica should make a War of God game, and if people like get it confused, then no, I'm going to show up now. All right, fair enough.
God of Peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Amplitude. They made Endless Space, which is a 4X game, Endless Legend, which is also a 4X game, and then they came up with Dungeon of the Endless, which was a roguelike dungeon defense game. And it's just like, if you're a big fan of like Endless Space and Endless Legend, and you see this, you're probably going, what? And then they made Endless Space 2, which isn't actually a 4X game. It's a strategy game, but it's more of a space opera. And it's like, just brilliant. I love it. Just do that.
Go home, Amplitude. You're drunk.
I mean, drink more Amplitude because it's worth it.
Seems to be. Yeah. No, I know you're impressed with those guys. I nearly played Endless Space once, but you know me. It's the wrong kind of game for me, but it looked good.
I can't play their 4X games, in all fairness. I'm rubbish at them, but Dungeon of the Endless is amazing.
Sweet.
So, your next one?
I'm not sure how far out it is, but Black Myth is variously called different things. Wukong, Black Myth. It's the one that's by that Chinese dev that's brand new, it's based on Monkey, Journey to the West thing. And,
yes.
Yeah, and it's another one. This is the last one of my maybe kind of games. It looks lovely, and the movement looks really good. My obvious worry is that it's going to be too much of a Soulsborne. You've got a stamina bar, and that everything's got vast amounts of health, and it's all about rolling, but making sure you don't roll too much so your stamina stays. All that stuff that really pisses me off with Soulsborne games. Micromanaging your every movement. It doesn't feel like a power fantasy, and if I'm playing an action game, I want a power fantasy. But I'm hoping that they're dialed down that enough, or they've got options to turn them off in the game, because it looks lovely, and I'd really like to give it a go. So it's one of those that if it's too Soulsborne-y, I'll wait till it's a $5. If it's not, or you can turn it off, I'm probably going to get it, day one, week one, maybe.
You kind of hope that they come to Game Pass at the same time to save you some monies.
Oh, well, that'd be perfect. But I doubt it, because they're being a Chinese developer. I don't think they'd go that far in with an American company like that day one.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But money talk, so who knows?
That's true.
Moving on, because there's quite a few of these to get through. To change things up a little bit, there's a sports game I'm looking forward to. Because it's doing something I want to see, which is more retro-looking sports games of sports that you don't see very often. But this one's called Footy Showdown, and it's based around Aussie rules football, which is a mental sport. It's so bizarre, but it's got visuals as though it could have been made like on the SNES or the Mega Drive, pure 16-bit sport. And I don't know how deep it'll go or anything like that, but it's really piqued my interest. It's no official names or anything. It's like you've got like teams called like the Trolls and stuff like that, or whatever. I think it's like goblins and stuff, but they're all like normal human teams and everything. But it's kind of got that old EA like mid-90s EA sports style visuals to it. I just really like the look of it, and I'm quite eager to play this. There's no release date or anything yet, but it's nice to have a sports game to look forward to that's not going to have a crap ton of microtransactions and DLC and cards and stuff like that. It just looks like just pure sport for the sake of being arcadey sport fun.
Yeah, well, we keep banging the drum for more of these to exist, don't we? Because they're just not enough fringe sports, not enough arcadey type sports. In fact, unless you want a kind of a sim or a simcade style experience in sport, you're kind of up the creek without a tree, or up the paddle without a creek, or whatever the expression is. So yeah, no, we definitely need more stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to see more, Aussie rules football, maybe rugby league over, rugby union. Go back. Let's make another decent 16-bit cricket game and all things like that. Let's remove the sim nature of old sports of modern sports games and just bring the fun back to them. Dodgeball. Put in a bit of dodgeball back in, some netball, all of it. Go for it. British Bulldog.
Yeah. The much anticipated or much wanted kabaddi game that you and I want to have.
Someone's got to make a kabaddi game. It's just ripe for making, because you could turn that into some kind of co-op online sports game. That would take the world by storm.
I don't care if it did, but I want it anyway.
Well, me and you would play it, so there you go. 2 sales there.
2 sales, yeah.
Which is about all the indie developer needs for a success. I don't know. I just assume that I'm the only person buying some indie games. And I can't imagine there's been too many people that have given a shout out to Footy Showdown of late. No. So there you go.
Yeah, well, if it's worth it for them, if they get a good engine out of it and they get a few sales, that's cool. But I'm sure there must be a bigger market. Anyway, who knows? Yeah, I'll wish list that one anyway. I kind of interested in it as well now.
Oh, I've got. There's a few more sports games, but I'll do that offline with you. I'll show you some of the ones I've got on my wish list another time.
Sounds sexy. Well, yes. The next one that I'm thinking about is there's a few really in a kind of grouping of probably going to be first day or first week at least. Definitely going to get them. So
rattle through a few.
Yeah, and one of them is the new Forza Motorsport. If I can say it, Forza Motorsport, which is, Forza Motorsport 8, isn't it, I think? Yeah.
I think it's just calling it Forza Motorsport now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They've just taken off the number to try and convince people that they haven't reached an absurd number of the sequels, which doesn't seem to be putting off Square with Final Fantasy, but there you go. It looks really, really good, and obviously that will be day one for me because it's going to be on Game Pass, of course. That looks really great. I like the direction they're going with it. I'm quite intrigued and really looking forward to putting some time into that one. And on that kind of same level, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, and it's one of those that it's high up there because I really enjoyed the first one, but I didn't love it. And it came down to there were a few flaws, like no fast travel. The maps were a bit like circuits, but they had like shortcuts that you could discover. But if you couldn't discover them, they didn't have them. It was a long walk and it was padding, which wasn't the end of the world. But there was a problem with the lightsabers feeling a bit like Nerf bats as usual, clobbering people with them instead of cutting them in half. I think if they can tweak the gameplay to sharpen up those two aspects, I think it'll be a real good one. They certainly know how to build the levels and create the enemies and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that one. So yeah, those two are of that level for me.
Do they not, with the Star Wars stuff, especially the games, now it's all under Disney and everything fully? Do you not think that's actually going to become an issue? They don't want too much violence with those lightsabers, so they maybe it's coming from above to restrict the damage they can do.
Yeah, possibly. That will definitely be a part of it, and it's always difficult because, if you're fighting something in the Star Wars universe with a lightsaber, you're running out of excuses for not just being able to cut them in half straight away. It's definitely like that with the stormtroopers. But what I think they should be able to do is, is cut down on the number of humans that you fight and aliens, like increase the number of droids that you fight. Just skin them as if they were humans. Just make them look like humans, but when you cut them in half, they're robots. That's fine. That'll do. Because it's about the feeling of the impact of a lightsaber. That's what you're trying to recreate. You're not going, I want to see blood, I want to kill things. It's, I want to see what a lightsaber can do to objects. And if it doesn't behave the way it's supposed to, it doesn't really make sense. So yeah, turn it into like 90% droids and then have, some living creatures who can block lightsabers really, really well. And you just got to get through their guard, like Bushido Blade. If you get through their guard, if you hit them, then they're dead.
So I'm going to alienate half of our 10 listeners that we've got now, right? But I don't really care for Star Wars. Not a big fan. It's all right. Which is sometimes the worst thing you can say to a Star Wars fan. If you hate it, they'll argue with you. But if you just go, no, it's all right. Oh, that's the worst thing you can say. But based on what you were saying, describing there, a Musu game. So Star Wars Jedi Warriors, Attack of the Clone War monster robot things, where you basically go through and you just mow down hordes and hordes of various droids and stuff like that in a Musu setting, but you then have to go and take on Dark Lords or Siths or whatever, take on the Siths, and they're more grander battles that you have instead of like the bosses. It's rife for being a Musou game.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds excellent because you could. It fits in nicely with force powers as well.
Yeah.
And
if you kill one of the Sith, or you die, instead of the blood and guts and everything, you just do what happens to Obi-Wan, where he just disappears.
Yeah.
So you've got all the lore there. Let's do it. Make that happen.
Should happen, definitely.
Yes.
Although the thing that I want most is more space combat games. That's the thing. I love Star Wars, but I'm not really that fussed about Jedi and Sith and stuff. They were a part of it, of course, in the original films, but they weren't kind of the be all and end all. And I enjoyed the space battles more. So more space battle games. That's what I want.
Star Wars is about space battles and nearly banging your sister.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Just like EastEnders or something. I don't know. I think I'm confusing my soaps and my space operas.
Very possibly. Both very melodramatic.
Rogue Leader. I'd have another Rogue Squadron Rogue Leader game or whatever the subtitle is to the main name. That on the GameCube was amazing.
Yes.
Bring that back.
Yes, it was. So good.
Better than Squadrons.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, I'm going to rattle through 3 quick ones that I've got that I'm kind of really intrigued by. One is called American Arcadia, which is a kind of like if the Truman Show meets Battle Royale. And I don't mean Battle Royale was in the modern sense of 1 versus 100. I mean the sense of putting something on TV for people to view that really shouldn't be on TV. So essentially, you're kind of like everyone works in this office, everything's provided for them, they live there and everything, and they don't realise they're contestants on a reality show. And then basically your character uncovers the truth, and then you kind of go through this game, go through all the levels, trying to escape. And it just looks really cool. It's got a nice visual style. It's kind of inside meets I don't know, something really colourful at the same time. It's kind of got this really sort of like dystopian effect to it. And it just looks really, really cool. I'm looking forward to that. That comes out, I'm hoping, within the next year. There's no date. It's just to be arranged at the moment. Coming fairly soon, I think, is Little Orpheus, which is a 2D action platformer puzzle style game. It's from the Chinese Room, which you probably will know them from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Dear Esther, those kind of games. They've changed their genre up a little bit, so this looks really good. Again, it's more of a 2D style puzzle type casual game, but knowing what they can do with telling story with your surroundings, I'm really looking forward to see what they do with this genre, so one to keep an eye on. And the other quick one I'm looking forward to is, I think I backed this on Kickstarter, but I can't remember. That's Duru. It's Duru about mole rats and depression. It's a 2D puzzle platformer game that basically goes deep into sort of like how people deal with depression, and it uses like how they deal with obstacles. It is all like quite a metaphorical type game that goes with it. It's got a brilliant sort of paper cut animation style to it. And it's just it's been in development for quite a little while. It's a smallish team, Twisted Rainbow Games in Germany, an all woman team, which is really cool to see. And yeah, it just looks like a really interesting take, almost on Eco. So you kind of like you play this. You've got this other character that you've got to kind of take around with you, and you've got to kind of get them to do things so that you can then do things. So you kind of manipulate them and control them by like maybe throwing something to get them to go somewhere, so you can get somewhere to bring something down, and then you've got to bring them back round to get up. So it's kind of got that feeling to it. But it's all 2D, lovely style, and again, I just really can't wait to play this one. But I've avoided playing any demos or anything because it deals with depression and things like that. I'm more intrigued to see how it handles that, because again, with depression, you can get this very right, or you can get it very wrong. There's no middle ground, I don't think, with this sort of stuff.
No, I agree. I'm fairly looking forward to Senua's Hellblade 2.
Yes.
Senua's whatever. Senua's sequel.
Senua's amazingly realistic eyes.
Yeah, they are very frighteningly realistic. And that's great. It's a great game, and it does it completely right from the mental health side. From the gaming side, I didn't really enjoy it very much. That kind of physical puzzle interaction stuff, I get really frustrated by it quite quickly. So I'm hoping the new one is a little bit more straightforward, or I don't know, accessible.
Almost ironically enough, if that was more God of War, in terms of it just takes you through the game, that might have been better in terms of allowing you to appreciate the story, because the story and the atmosphere in that game is still second to none in terms of dealing with mental health, and not mental health as such, but psychosis, that side of mental health.
Yes, yeah, I agree, yeah.
But yeah, that's 3 quick ones from me. So what have you got next?
So yeah, I'll do the end game now. I'll go into the last few that I'm really, really looking forward to, and these are like day ones. So the Callisto Protocol, which I mentioned briefly last week.
That's the Dead Spacey one, isn't it?
It is. Everyone now goes, "Oh, Dead Space was a classic," and I was like, "Well, I was saying that at the time, but it didn't actually sell that well." It was a combination of like the sequel selling better and the third one being a disappointment that has kind of kept it in people's consciousness, because it was like, and then they shuttered the studio, so it was like a really kind of well, in retrospect it's all brilliant kind of thing. But I was there from day one, like a lot of people listening to this will have been proper, really looking out for new classics, and it just brought something new to that whole Resident Evil 4 style game after like 6 years or so, of it being out. And I'm really, really looking forward to what the developer's going to do next with that. So that's definitely one. And the Horizon VR Call of the Mountain. So obviously, like PlayStation 5, PSVR 2, so I'm going to have to buy both of those things to play it. And so getting together $1,000 to do that is going to be a bit of a challenge, because I'm saving up for a deposit on a house, so that might be a toughie. But I still want it day one, even though I'm not going to probably be able to have it day one.
Please support us on Patreon.
Yeah, I want money for games. Crysis 4, for most people they'll be kind of like, FPS. If it's good, I'll buy it. I'm probably the only person left who's like, oh god, I love the Crysis series. I just like really took to it. So yeah, that's a big one for me. And finally, Breath of the Wild 2, of course, which, does what it says on the tin, looks amazing. I'm wondering whether it's going to be any good on an original Switch hardware. I reckon it will be like, you can play it on Switch, but wouldn't you much rather play it on our new improved Switch Pro or Switch 2 or whatever they call it, and that'll be the real experience. But I'm still going to get it day one without a shadow of a doubt. So
or on the Steam Deck.
Well, you see, I was going to talk about this at a separate time, but I can talk about it now.
On your Yuzu emulator.
I was playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which I'll talk about more in the next podcast, and it doesn't perform very well on the Steam Deck, I'm afraid. You can get it. It's a 30 frames per second game. It's locked at 30. It doesn't do 60, which is fine as long as it stays at 30. But on the Steam Deck, and apparently, also I won't go into loads of detail because I'm talking about it soon anyway, but it doesn't handle it brilliantly. It drops to like 22 frames per second. Looks a bit of a slideshow quite often, so not perfect, I'm afraid. Brilliant on my gaming PC, rock solid 30, but Deck can't really handle it, I'm afraid.
No, we'll talk about that more, but it's not... Because it's on native hardware on the Switch, it plays that ever so slightly better, but I found it still quite playable enough on the Steam Deck. it's not one I'll seek out to play. It's if I happen across it, I'll play it. But yeah, that's for another time to discuss.
Sure.
So was that all of yours?
That's all of mine. Yeah, go on. What are your absolute drop dead must-haves?
So first of all, Spirit Swap, lo-fi beats to match 3-2. I mentioned this last week. Basically, any game where the description starts off cast spells, be queer, and crash the biggest concept crash the biggest concert of the year, I'm all in. Basically, it's a match-free game that looks part dating sim. It's made by a company called Soft Not Weak, and they have the developers or everyone involved is queer, non-binary, I believe. And I will get this one. I do apologise. One of the developers, they're Arab as well. So, they're really breaking out from what would be their cultural norms. And they're making this game. I've played the demo a few times. I've got it. The demo was given away in a couple of itch bundles, so I've played it via that. I got it in the recent Steam Next Fest. Played it again via that. Continues to be brilliant. It is out next year. I want it to be next year already. That's how much I really want this game. It's so good. Next up is Terra Nil. I remember seeing this on a Devolver Direct, I want to say, or it might have been on something else. It's a Devolver game, published game anyway, but I can't remember if I saw it on a Devolver Direct or somewhere else. Basically, it's a reverse city builder where the world has been destroyed. Essentially, humans have ruined the world, or whatever has ruined the world, and the world has become a barren wasteland. And it's your job to basically reconstruct the ecosystem by, getting water to go to places and getting grass to grow and then trees to grow and bringing in various different environmental elements to do things. So even sort of like using fire to do controlled burns and stuff like that to create areas for other parts to flourish and so on, and build up and build up and build up. I've played the demo. The demo has sold me even more on this game. Again, there's no release date on it, and I want it now. The demo I played in the Next Fest, and the demo's still available, by the way, is so good. And I can't wait to play this one. It's in my top. Well, Spirit Swap is number 3. Terra Nil's number 2 on my wish list on Steam. And finally, this will come as a surprise to absolutely nobody. The one I'm most looking forward to is Immortality by Sam Barlow. To me, Sam Barlow is the Daniel Day-Lewis of video games. Doesn't make a bad one at all. Doesn't make many, but when he does, it's going to hit the right notes. Don't care what anyone else says about her story. It's wonderful. All his games are amazing. He done the best spin-off Silent Hill game. This one's really close. This one comes out on the 26th of July. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's already out. And this one it's an FMV game, because that's what he's a master of. Or interactive story, as we're calling them now, apparently. It's FMV. But,
yeah, it is.
There's a film star in it called Marissa Marcel, who made 3 amazing movies. Or she made 3 movies. I don't know if they was meant to be amazing. I don't know. Because none of them were ever released, because Marissa Marcel goes missing. And you play, I'm assuming, a detective. I've tried to avoid as much of this as possible, so I don't go to it as blind as possible. Yeah. But you play a detective who's looking into finding out about her disappearance. And what's usual with the Sam Barlow games and how he utilises FMV is you're kind of going through and you're watching clips like, what's it called? Like when you archive footage. You're watching archive footage to try and link together what's going on. So you might have like some behind the scenes footage of Marissa Marcel having an argument with someone. Or, you know, you might be watching her do a TV interview and getting all the extras from that. And you've got to kind of piece together how they all fit together. If it's anything like other Sam Barlow games, there's not likely, or there might not be, an outright ending. You know, what I like is it's up to you when that game's ended, and this could well from that. It might have an actual ending, I don't know this time. But everything I've seen, the brief clips I've seen of it, it just hits all those same notes that I really, really like in these games. And, you know, back when this was just an untitled project, I was in. When it was revealed, I was in. Whatever happened with her story, which was a much lower budget game, the money that went into Telling Lies, that was really, really good. And I really enjoyed my time for that. I'm hoping that sold well, because whatever budget has then gone into this looks like it's just been made to make this even just bigger, better, more real looking. You know, it's almost like you are watching real footage. It's not like video game footage. I mean, it is obviously real footage, but it's not been made for a video game. It's as though these people are actually doing this, and you are getting to look into their lives. There's just something really special about this, and I'm 2 weeks away from getting my hands on it. I can't wait. I just really, really, really cannot wait. So with that, I'll shut up now.
All very cool, though. Made a note of loads of those, stuck them on my wish list, and yeah, they'll be getting downloaded. And hopefully, a lot of the good thing about any suggestions from yourself is that they tend to be cheap, which is fantastic. So that's great. Anyway, so that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. As usual, follow us on all the socials, join our Discord, check out our Patreon, and other than that, enjoy the new political landscape wherever possible. Stay safe and stay sane.